Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Guna Fanzine Arsenal Women podcast. I'm back with Claudia today. Obviously, Freddie is away enjoying his holiday again. Seems like he's keeps going on holiday and leaving us to do this podcast, doesn't he? But great to have you back on the podcast and looking forward to talking through some Arsenal women stuff today.
Yeah, hope I can do it justice for a second time.
Yeah, definitely. I think we enjoyed doing it last time, didn't we, as well? So
Yeah.
super exciting to talk about all things Arsenal women. It has been sort of a quiet, I would say, past week or so. You kind of expect sort of a lull around this time of the year. Obviously, we're not quite in pre-season yet. Some players are back in training, others sort of away on different tournaments. I wanted to start obviously by reflecting back just after we filmed the previous episode. We obviously had a semi-final in the under-19 women's Euros. We had a semi-final between England and Spain. Yet again, Spain somehow, taking on England and getting that victory. It was a 3-1 loss, unfortunately, for England, and we had quite a lot of youngsters out there. Michelle Aguiman, Maddie Earle, Freya Godfrey, Viviane Leah, and Katie Reid were all in that squad, which is quite a lot of players to have. In that squad. Obviously, Aguiman and Earl started the game, and Aguiman got the assist for the goal that Mia Enderby scored. But unfortunately, they just missed out on that victory. Godfrey, Leah, and Reid all made appearances as well off the bench. Obviously, we've got quite a lot of young talent in this Arsenal squad, and it is quite a difficult one to manage as well, trying to decide who gets in that first team and who also, goes out on loan and kind of we've got a lot of talent in there, but how we manage it is quite a difficult one. Are there any sort of standout players sort of in that list that I've just named that you think might have a chance or maybe a future at Arsenal and maybe in the near future? Or do you think this is a case of a lot of these players are going out on loan and maybe getting a bit more experience?
Yeah, I think all of them will probably go out on loan, but Ajman looks the closest sort of physically. She looks more ready to compete with women. But I thought Maddie Earle was really good. Whenever I've seen her play, I think the way she finds space is really good. It kind of reminds me of Kim Little a little bit. So um, yeah, she's got great balance, great feet, and she seems like she's just not phased um by the game really. She never really looks like panicked or anything. And yeah, I thought, they're all very good players, but I think those two are the two for me. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think I looked at Michelle Aguiman sort of going back to that first game that they played. They had I think it was a 10-0 win or very, very high victory in that first game. She scored an amazing free kick and she definitely has a lot. She's on the she's 18, I think, now. So she's getting towards that point where it's going to have to be either a very good championship side or, even a WSL side that she's pushing in. I often thought she was quite isolated in the game, and that's quite difficult, isn't it, to obviously score the goals and show kind of how much of a good player you are if you're not getting that service as much and you're kind of a little bit isolated up front. But I completely agree with you about Maddie Earle, and she's one of the younger ones, I think, sort of out of that list. I am interested to see what you think about Katie Reid because obviously Arsenal have got that decision to make about a centre back. Are they going to go in for a centre back in the summer? Is it going to be sort of Taya Goldie that comes in after her injury and takes that sort of fourth centre back spot? Obviously, we've got Amanda Illistead out at the moment and for the foreseeable future. Do you think Katie Reid is ready to step up, or do you think it's a case of she needs more experience, or is it even a case of game time, really?
Yeah, I don't know how much game time she would get if she was the fourth choice centre back. And I think it would probably be more likely to be Taya Goldie who does that. But I think I'd like to see her out on loan. I think she's definitely got the makings of a brilliant centre back, and I actually think Freya Godfrey is really good as well. At sort of winning the ball back defensively. They both got very good sort of just a, sort of a knack for winning the ball back. But I think just positioning is probably where young defenders need to develop. So I don't think she's ready to sort of step straight into that fourth centre back role just yet, especially with Illistead potentially coming back at some point. So yeah, I think it's sort of one for the future still.
Yeah, I think Arsenal have got to deal with that right, haven't they? It's about sort of not completely getting rid of some of these players, but maybe getting them the game time and the experience that they need, and then obviously bringing them back to Arsenal. Obviously, we've seen players go sort of on loan a lot and sort of develop, and we're having a similar situation with other youngsters. You've got the situation with Catherine Cole, obviously was on loan at Everton, and then he's coming back into this side and potentially could get sort of in that squad as well. So there's lots of decisions to be made in the summer for Jonas and the rest of the team. I do think as well, obviously we've had a lot of players returning to training. The youngsters are back in now. We've still got a few away at the Olympics, but we're going to start to see people coming back soon, and it's not going to be long until pre-season. One of those obviously featured in the training pictures on social media this week was Lina Hurtig. Now, this is sort of an interesting situation because we didn't quite get a lot of clarification on what was going on. Obviously, that was private, but I do want to read out, in case anybody missed it, the post that went up on her Instagram. This was following the release of the training pictures. She said, "Hey everyone, it's been a while. I've been dealing with some personal issues that required me to take some time away from the field, but I'm very happy to say that I'm back now and feeling like myself again, and I'm so excited to be back training with the team. Big thank you to all players and staff for supporting me through this period, but the biggest thank you to my family. Without you, I'm nothing." Obviously, Lena Hurtig has had time away from the squad. Obviously, we wish her the best and hope that she's dealing with the situation, and she's okay as well. I want to talk about what you think about Lena Hurtig coming back into this side. Obviously, we've seen very little of her since she signed for Arsenal. We've seen glimpses of what she can do. I'd love to know if you think that there's a sort of a role for her in this system. Is she going to sort of get into that team, or is it going to sort of be she's going to need to make an impact and maybe like work her way back into the squad?
Yeah, we haven't really seen that much of her. I do kind of think that all the wingers seem to fit, maybe barring Chloe who does have quite a bit of pace, but a lot of the wingers are sort of ball to feet kind of wingers. Even Chloe to an extent, and Nina's a bit like that too. Like none of them are slow, but I think we could really do with like a younger profile, someone who can really run in behind and just give you an exit when you're struggling in games, when they're defending with a high line. So yeah, I think I'd like to see more of her, definitely. But I don't think that should stop us from signing someone else, essentially. And, yeah, football's a business at the end of the day. So you have to fight for your place in the team. And it would be great if she could do that. But if not, hopefully Arsenal will have someone, because we've been lacking a winger for a while now. We've only had 3 rather than 4. So yeah, hopefully either she can come back into the team or we can sign someone else. Maybe both, who knows?
Yeah, we will obviously touch on this when we talk about the Olympics, but obviously we've seen Mariona Caldente playing that left wing position for Spain. Not specifically the role that you're talking about. She's sort of dropped a little bit deeper and been more involved sort of in the build-up play. A little bit about, what we've seen Arsenal do a lot in recent games that we've seen. We've seen Russo drop in deep. We've not seen, those pacey wingers like you're talking about. I do wonder, sort of, with Lena Hurtig. I think she typically would play potentially on that left wing position, but I think there is obviously some competition now. Looking at those 3 players, obviously bringing Caitlin forward to that discussion as well. And if Arsenal choose to recruit another winger, that does make for quite a difficult situation. I would wonder if maybe Lena Hurtig would play more of a role sort of coming off the bench. I think she scored
Yes.
she scored against Leicester, didn't she, in that 6-2 comeback win. I think that might be the last time we saw that,
Mhm.
really.
Yeah, I mean, we know that she is injury prone, because, even before these issues, I think she was struggling with injuries as well. So hopefully she can stay fit. That's the first thing. And yeah, hopefully she can do that. But also I think, like you said, Cadente would be good for number 10 role. That's just my sort of first view of it when I watch her play. I don't know if Jonas knows more than me, but I think the way that she can find that final pass is perfect for a number 10, and just the creativity and vision that she has is really good. So yeah, I would like to see her play there, and I would like to see her sign another winger. But like I said last time, fans kind of want everything, don't they? So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, especially with a team like Arsenal, obviously we really want to compete with those big names. And I do want to come on to obviously Mariona and sort of go on to the Olympics discussion. Obviously, we've got quite a few players in various different teams. Obviously, we'll go back to group stage match day one. Mariona Caldente scoring the winner in a 2-1 comeback over Japan. We typically saw her play that left wing role. Laia Cadena, obviously an unused substitute. Lacasse scored a goal for Canada, levelling at the time against New Zealand. They went on to win 2-1. We saw Fox play the entire game of the USA's 3-0 win over 10-player Zambia. And it was Australia who suffered that first day defeat, 3-0 against Germany, that loss. Ford and Catley were both subbed off in the second half, but we saw Cooney Cross play the full match. What did you think, sort of, was there any standout Arsenal players, any standout performances, and what did you think of those sort of games as a whole?
Yeah, so I think obviously Australia have been struggling with both games that they've played, and I think the US have really impressed me. I think Emily Fox is very consistent. I I think defensively she is pretty solid, um, and at times she can really unlock them going forward as well. But I think for the US they've got so many incredible sort of forward players that they don't necessarily need her to do as much of that kind of work. But yeah, I think Kyra's been good for Matildas. Thought in the last game, Steph Catley was really good as well. Who was it that they played in the last game?
Yeah, so Australia played against Zambia in that
Yeah, Zambia.
knockout.
Yeah, yeah. So they, I mean, obviously they've got some really pacey forwards as well. Was it Banda and Kundananji?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they obviously caused problems, but I think Catley dealt with it well, and she offered like a real threat going forward as well, and did well on set pieces. Um, and yeah, I think the US were probably the favourites now to win it, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you know, for example, even Canada, we don't we've got their situation, but I wouldn't be surprised if they actually get out of the group because they look quite good. So yeah.
Yeah, they achieved that comeback against France. I'll run through those quickly for anybody who missed it. So the matches that were played yesterday, match day obviously two in the group stage. Australia managed an incredible 6-5 comeback. I'm sorry to anybody who missed that game when they played Zambia because it was incredible. They obviously went down and trailed multiple times. Catley scored twice and provided two assists with Cooney Cross also getting an assist. Ford won the penalty for Catley and almost scored on several different occasions. Um, Caldente featured again for Spain. They got a 1-0 victory over Nigeria. That was a late Alexia Putellas free kick. Laia Cadena again, not really getting any game time. She was an unused substitute. We'll come on to that in a second. I'll just run through the last part. Obviously, Emily Fox played again in a 4-1 win, which was a huge victory for the USA against Germany. She was subbed quite late on in the game in the second half, injury time. Lacasse was an unused substitution, which also might have surprised a few people. She obviously scored in that first game, but she wasn't used yesterday. But Canada did still manage to get that 2-1 comeback against France. I'll come back to the Laia Cadena situation. Obviously, quite a promising centre back. We've seen a lot from her at Arsenal. She's obviously not
Mhm.
been played in these two games. Do you think that's sort of tactical? Obviously, you with a team like Spain, you are competing for those places as well. So, what do you
Yeah.
think the reason is for her not featuring really?
Um, yeah, I mean, Alexandria is pretty good, and Paredes is obviously Champions League winner. So it's difficult. It's tough competition. I think maybe the way that Spain like to play, where they dominate possession, maybe suits them a little bit more. Because I think where Leia seems to like really excel is in duels, and I mean she's good on the ball as well. But I think maybe they just sort of excel like, in build up. Maybe they're two of the best of the world at that. So yeah, I think Spain still do look frail defensively. I don't think it's impossible to score against them, but we were talking about Caldente. I think they've got players like that can just sort of win a match for you. So yeah, hopefully we'll see Leia a little bit more. because I'd like to see her more for Arsenal as well. But Lotta's been so good, and obviously Leah's come back that we haven't really had as much of a chance as we would have liked to see her. But when I have seen her, I think she's been pretty solid.
Yeah,
So yeah.
it's a great problem to have, isn't it? That sort of having too many good centre backs and not being able to give everybody a chance to start every single week. But I agree with you. I think obviously, we know what a talent like Lina is. I don't think it's a reflection of her own ability in any way. Like you say, it's more to do with obviously Spain have a lot of competition for places in general. And yeah, I think that's an interesting one. Obviously, you expect Mariona to really play in most games. She has done for Spain. And Lacasse as well. I'll touch on that quickly. Obviously, that she, featured for Canada in that first game, was in the starting 11, scored. Then obviously dropped back down to the bench again and didn't really, make. Obviously, she couldn't make an impact. She didn't come on in yesterday's game. Obviously,
Mhm.
it's a strange one because with Canada, she tends to come sort of on and off that bench a lot. Sometimes she's in the starting 11, sometimes she's not. It's hard to predict. Do you again think that you see her as sort of an impact player for Arsenal as well, or do you think she could really push? And obviously comparing that to Canada as well with that starting 11 place.
Yeah, I think with Arsenal, she's not really going to start ahead of Beth Mead.
Yeah,
So I think we're looking more at the left hand side. Um, but Caitlin Ford we know what she can do as well. So yeah, I think when Lacasse has played, she's done well. But we haven't really been able to give her the consistent minutes that she needs to maybe show us more what she can do. And I think for Canada, I'm not too sure why she hasn't played for them. I think they've got, who is it that plays? I don't actually know who their left winger is, but they've got, they've
yeah,
got Adriana Leon. I think, does she play on the right maybe? But
yeah.
I mean, she's very good as well. So yeah, I think it's just the Olympics. It's like you take your best players, and I don't know if they probably don't have any injuries, so she's just struggling for game time a little bit. But obviously, she scored. We can see the quality that she has when she does get in those positions. But I think maybe the way that Arsenal play hasn't quite suited her. So I hope that she does get more game time, like Leia. I hope she does get more game time for the national team, and they can, that can only help them really to then get into the Arsenal team and vice versa. So yeah, hopefully we get to see more of both of them as the Olympics progresses. And obviously we know that Spain are going to go through, but hopefully Canada do too, so we can see more of her. Yeah.
Yeah, Canada is such an interesting situation. Obviously, the head coach has obviously resigned now, and they're dealing with a 6 point deduction, trying to get out of that group. I'll run through all of the groups in just a moment. Obviously, if anybody wants to follow the fixtures, the final group stage games are being played on Wednesday, obviously the 31st of July. You can follow Brazil against Spain, so obviously follow Mariona Caldente and Laia Cadena. That's at 4 p.m. UK time. Obviously, we've got Australia versus the United States, such a big game in that group as well. You can follow obviously the Matildas in that one. That's at 6 p.m. UK time. Then you've got Canada against Colombia. That's at 8 p.m. As well. So there's a lot of exciting games as well. Obviously, I didn't touch on Japan, Nigeria, Zambia v Germany, and New Zealand versus France. It's a tough sort of competition, and that is kind of what the Olympics is. I'll quickly touch obviously on the groups so we can kind of sort of come to predictions really. Obviously Canada, like I said, back to 0 points now because of their 6 point deduction, but they have won two games. Colombia impressing, and they're sort of leading the group at the moment in Group A, France in second. United States 6 points, so in group they're leading Group B in that tough group. Germany in second, Australia in third, and then obviously Spain leading that Group C. They've won both of their games. Japan in second after their comeback as well, and then Brazil in third. Obviously, this is a tough competition to predict. Anything can happen. Um, what do you think, sort of, in terms of the ones that are standing out to you in terms of teams and who could potentially, I know you mentioned it a little bit earlier, who could potentially take that gold?
Yeah, I think the US, you'd have to put them as favourites. But at the same time, I don't think either of them, I don't think they will be thinking that they are, because I'm sure Emma Hayes has said it, but this is like you're taking the best, you're taking on the best teams. GB didn't make it, Sweden didn't make it, and other really good teams. So no game is guaranteed. I think, yeah, they did beat Germany quite convincingly, but at the same time, I don't think defensively, again, I don't think they're the strongest team. So I think that's been the case in a lot of games. Actually, it's made it quite exciting, hasn't it? We've had a lot of goals, but I think that you can't really count out Spain because um, they dominate the ball so much that it's just so hard to play against them. They're so technically gifted, and all the players just sort of keep the ball well and play just really really nice football. So I would definitely put them up there as well. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I don't know who else. I think those are the two that are really standing out to me. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with the US. I think, for me, I looked at that first game when Germany played Australia. They got that 3-0 win. And I started to pin them as favourites. But obviously the US then absolutely trounced Germany 4-1. So that has to say something about the US. I know you mentioned it earlier, that that forward line that they've got and those talented young players that they've got coming through. And I think, we obviously have that a bit of Arsenal bias, but Emily Fox, she plays a significant amount of game time and
Mhm.
she just for me is a standout. She's defensively solid. She gets forward with the attack. She really suits that system that the US are playing. And I obviously never going to write off Spain. They've done really well so far. Australia, I think, is going to be a tough one for them. Obviously, Catley, like you say, was a standout in that previous game, but defensively they really are struggling, aren't they? So it's going to be
Yeah.
tough for them to get out of that group and get further in the competition. But that comeback, 6-5, that could really give them some momentum,
Mhm.
sort of going forward. But yeah, we'll obviously see how that competition progresses. You can follow obviously all the Olympics action and on the Guna we do a rundown of every single sort of game day and we run down all the Arsenal players and what they've been up to and goals, assists, anything like that. But obviously, we're looking forward to pre-season as well. It's actually not that far away. Arsenal have got that pre-season tournament over in the US. They're playing Washington Spirit on the 18th of August and Chelsea on the 25th. Two very tough fixtures. We touched on this a little bit on last week's episode, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that because obviously Washington Spirit, bit of a different side to what Arsenal are used to. What are we expecting from that game? And obviously a familiar face in Chelsea.
Yeah, the style of play is probably a bit different. It's probably more transitional. Um, they've got some. I can't remember which player it is. Does one of the Zambia forwards play for them? Maybe.
I think so, yeah. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but they're obviously quite a good side, aren't they, in the
Yeah,
NWF?
yeah. They're doing. Are they top? I don't know. They're doing pretty well.
Yeah, they're doing quite, I think,
Um,
to my knowledge, yeah, I don't follow NWSL as much as I'd like to, but I think they are, yeah.
yeah. So it'll be good to get a good test. I think it will be more competitive than say the A League game that we played
Yeah.
after the season had ended, and then yeah, like Chelsea, yeah, we know them, what we'll be facing, but that'll obviously also be a competitive game, even though it's pre-season. I think those two teams was they're not gonna it's not gonna be a friendly,
Yeah,
even though
definitely.
it is technically a friendly. It's kind of like when Arsenal play Man United, the men's team.
Yeah.
There's a bit of sort of rivalry there, so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that, and I think I think we need those games because we need to prepare for the Champions League. So it's important to not just sort of play teams that aren't on our level, but play teams that are competing to win things and have players that need to be stopped essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah,
If we compare that obviously to last season, obviously we had, the Champions League qualifiers that were ultimately disappointing, and we did sort of not blame that, but sort of say we hadn't really had a proper pre-season, and that obviously affected our performances. Looking at obviously this tournament being arranged, two very good sides, a lot of sort of time together with the new squad and sort of developing as a team and building those new players in as well. We're in a different situation, aren't we, this season with having a proper pre-season? Obviously, Arsenal have got Rangers in the Champions League qualifiers. That's the 4th of September. So we're not too far away from that, really. Are you expecting it to be sort of a different outcome this year in terms of preparation and hopefully qualification?
Yeah, I think so. I think you were saying last week about I think the Atletico Madrid game will be the hard one.
Yeah.
But I think we've definitely got enough quality in the team that we should be beating all of those teams really. So yeah, I mean, it's difficult because it's a one-off game, and sometimes it does take teams a while to get going. But I think we're good enough that it would be pretty surprising if we didn't get through. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and adding that obviously to the fact that it's being played at Meadow Park, that's definitely going to help as well. Obviously, the fans are going to be there. I mean, they would be there anywhere, wouldn't they? But you know
Yeah.
what? Obviously, we talked last week about the Emirates obviously becoming, more of that home for Arsenal women. But there's a special sort of feel about Boreham Wood and Meadow Park and the fans and the atmosphere. I imagine that those Champions League qualifiers, the fans are going to bring everything, and that could really benefit the team and hopefully with that pre-season added on to that and the players that sort of getting that time out at the Olympics, we could really be looking at a good pre-season and coming on to, I think there'll be some high expectations for Arsenal next season, won't they? And we've got to sort of deal with that the best that we can.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll use what happened last year to help them and sort of learn from what happened last year, because um, these mini tournaments are probably not easy. So because the games are quite close together and stuff. So I think it's just about getting the preparation right, which hopefully we will, because we've had more time and they've had a bit more rest. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, even Jonas said, didn't he, that they will be taking the tournament, the qualifiers much more, seriously than they did. I think there was obviously that like they underestimated it last year, just sort of how much, you do need to put in. There was some tough sides in there. I think the draw, potentially, obviously, with Rangers is a little bit easier, but then obviously looking potentially at, Atletico Madrid, they're going to be a difficult side. So obviously we're fingers crossed always. I think we're the squad is developing, potentially a few more signings coming in, and we'll obviously hope that the season can be sort of a little bit better than it was this year. And it's all about that development, isn't it, with the squad that we've got and the players that we've got. But yeah, obviously Olympics action is still going on. We'll see how that progresses, and we'll see which players might come back to Arsenal with a gold medal potentially. And obviously pre-season will be starting soon. But thank you so much, obviously, for coming on this week's episode. We really, enjoy having you here, and it's great to discuss Arsenal with you as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.